Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back, grade 6. Today, inshallah, we have a new lesson. This lesson is Measures of Variability. It's lesson 4, chapter 30. In the end of our lesson, we must know how can we summarize a data set by using range, interquartile range, and mean absolute deviation. Firstly, what we mean by measure of variability. The measure of variability is a single value used to describe how spread out a set of data values are. The mean absolute deviation is a measure of variability. Example 1, in gym class, the students recorded how far they could jump. The data set below gives the distances in the inches that manual jumped. What is the mean absolute deviation of the data set? Here we have a table and we want to find the mean absolute deviation. We have some steps we must do it to find the mean absolute deviation. The first step, we must find the mean. How can we find the mean? We will find the sum of all of these values, then divide it by the number of it. Okay, so it will be 54 plus 58 plus 56 plus 59 plus 60 plus 55 over 6. Why 6? Because here we have 6 values. The sum of the values will be 342. 342 divided by 6 equal 57. Okay, so the mean of the data set is 57. Step 2, find the distance of each data value from the mean. How? We will subtract all of these values minus 57. Why 57? Because 57 is the mean. If we subtract the first one, it will be 3. Then it will be 1, 1, 2, 3, and 2. Step 3, add the distances. If we add it, it will be 12. Then we will divide this 12 by 6. Why? To find the mean absolute deviation. If we divide 12 by 6, it will be 2. So the mean absolute deviation of the data is 2 inches. Okay. We have another measures, range. What we mean by the range? Range is the difference between the greatest value and the least value in a data set. Again, the range is the difference between the greatest value and the least value in a data set. Interquartile range. What we mean by interquartile range is the difference between the upper quartile and the lower quartile of a data set. The range and the interquartile range are also measures of variability. Till now, we have 3 measures. The first one, the mean absolute deviation, range, and interquartile range. Example 2, use the range and the interquartile range to compare the data sets. The box plots show the price in dollars of the handheld game players at 2 different electronic stores. Find the range and the interquartile range for each data set. Then compare the variability of the prices of the handheld game players at the 2 stores. Now we have 2 stores, store A and store B. Store A, we want to find the range. We said that the range is the difference between the greatest and the least values. The greatest value here is 150 and the smallest one is 24. So if we subtract the 2 values, it will be 126. So the range for store A is 126. The next step, we will find the interquartile range. How? We will subtract the upper quartile and the lower quartile. It will be 72 minus 48. It's equal 24. So the interquartile range for store A is 24. Store B, we want to find the range, and we said that the range will be the difference between the greatest and the least value. The greatest value here is 120 and the least value here is 30. We will subtract the 2 values, it will be 90. The range for store B is 90. This is 100 and this is 42. Now we want to find what? We want to find the interquartile range. The interquartile range is the difference between the upper quartile and the lower quartile. The upper quartile here is 100 and the lower quartile here is 42. If we subtract the 2 values, it will be 58. So the interquartile range for store B is 58. Now, so store A has a greater space, has a greater range, but store B has a greater interquartile. Okay? Share and show. Find the range and the interquartile range of the data in the box plot. We said that the range will be the difference between the greatest value and the smallest value. The greatest value here is 19, and the smallest value here is 7. So we will subtract 19 minus 7, it's equal 12. For the range, find the difference between the greatest and the least value. We said that it will be 19 minus 7, it's equal 12. So the range is $12. For the interquartile range, find the difference between the upper and the lower quartiles. Okay, the lower quartile here is 12, and the upper quartile here is 15. So we will subtract 15 minus 12 equal 3. So the interquartile range equal $3. Example 2, copy and solve. Find the mean absolute deviation for the data set. Heights in inches of several tomato plants. Here we have some values. We want to find the mean absolute deviation. Okay, I'll explain it and try to write the steps. Firstly, we want to find the mean. How can we find the mean? We said that the mean equal the sum of all the values divided by the number. So we will add 16 plus 18 plus 18 plus 20 plus 17 plus 20 plus 18 plus 17. Then divide by 8. Why we will divide by 8? Because the number of values is 8. Okay, if we find the mean will be 18. The next step, we will subtract all of these values minus 18. Okay, so we will subtract all of these values minus 18. It will be 2, 0, 0, 2, 1, 2, 0, 1. The sum of them is 8. Then we will divide by 6. So the mean absolute deviation will be 8 over 6. It will be 8 over 6. Example 3, times in seconds for students to run 1 lap. Here we have some values and we want to find the mean absolute deviation. How? Firstly, we said that we will find the mean. How we will find the mean? We will add up all of these values, then divide by their number. Here it will be 68 plus 60 plus 52 plus 40 plus 64 plus 40 divided by 6. Okay? If we add them, we will get the mean. The mean will be 54. Then we will subtract all of these values minus 54. If we subtract, it will be 14, 6, 2, 14, 10, and 14. If we add all of these values, it will be 60. Then we will divide it by 6. So 60 divided by 6 equals 10. So mean absolute deviation is 10. Now you can solve on your own and the rest of the questions. And if you need any help, I'm waiting for your questions. Thank you.